I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Colby and Chip.
Patreon pick. This is the XU, right?
Extreme Underground?
Yeah. Yep. Extreme Underground Alliance led by the big homie Drew. Mm-hmm. And the name of this band is Catharsis. For starting at $1, you can join Patreon Alliance Club, and then if you can convince your folk to let your song get played, then they will elect it as a song of the to get played.
Oh, I don't know. There's all different ways that they get the songs on there, so
yeah,
it might not all be convincing them.
Yeah,
some of them have a system and all that.
Yeah. If you want if you like a band like this and you want to join an alliance that can get us more bands like this, Julie Gary, sorry if I put your last name out there, big homie, but I know the guy. I personally know the guy, so I can get you in contact with him. So if you want to check out,
also once you join Patreon, you'll see there's links that can be had. If you send me a message there, I can send you the whole breakdown. So
yeah, and there's some exclusive content on Patreon. I'm debating about some other things I gotta run by Sori, but yeah. All right, if you want to check out timely topical political commentary, you can hit me up at Middle America with Vin and Sori, or
if you want to see behind the scenes, then check out My Sori Life.
Arsonist Prayer. Let's get it.
All right, go.
silence like you've never known. You'd shake in it, cry out at it, but it will wrap you in its spider's thread. Perhaps you'll stare into that blankness until it peers back into you. And both of you see nothing, and it will wrap you in its spider's thread. Blessed are the wounds that are burned. Blessed are the branches that bear no fruit. Blessed are the rivers run dry, for we have come to the end of the world. Blessed are the wounds that are burned. Blessed are the branches that bear no fruit. Blessed are the rivers run dry, for we have come to the end of the world. Blessed are the wounds that are burned. Blessed are the branches that bear no fruit. Blessed are the rivers run dry, for we have come to the end of the world. To die. So die. Don't have become ours. The blood be done. The dead are done. Can you die? To us the thoughts of thoughts of life. If you do it, the thought of me. Love and life. It's the life. By the trap. Recognize. Let the field burn once again. Then pray. Burn again. Alone. Burn again. But it's not a done. It's not a strange. Just a different. Never. It don't ever get. Burn again. But it's not a way. So it's a time to have it. Run in the fun. Run in the pain. Run again. Run around. Run again. Just try to try. Run around. With the today's. Get on the break. Run on the break. Love the right. Run in the fun. So I can nothing. I'm doing it now. Run in the mouth. Run in the glass. Just don't do it. Leave us alone. Run in the face. Run on me. Run in the face. 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 Come on, come on. Run in the eyes of me. Look at it, look. We're not a dust. Let's feel back. Stay with us. Not give us back. Run in the face. Get that man. We'll never get. Run in the face. We're running off. We're strong in the dark. The broad ways. Run in the dark. And what we have known. But I'm not gonna run. Yeah, God. Never like a gun. You never see. You'll go. Never gonna hide. We're shut up. Follow to fear. For just like we're fucking here. We're for the cop. But in the ground. We're building walls. Let's burn them down.
Good God.
Yeah.
That video was a trip, man.
Huh.
It's a catalog of
Atrocities.
human achievement.
Man.
All of which I'm pretty sure was basically the 20th century.
Ugh.
Pretty much. Well, they had some lynchings. It's really interesting because this is
Stomach's upset now.
this is they're an anarchist band,
Uh-huh.
right? So I am assuming that they're gonna say that all these problems are rooted in capitalism and not necessarily just capitalism, but governmental structures, right? And I think to some degree they're probably right, because you have these government structures that send us all off to war. So it's like if there's a declaration of war or an approval for a certain action somewhere, then you've got hundreds of thousands of people that are just supposed to go somewhere. And so there is a sense, of course, in which governments are to blame to some degree for all the deaths in the last century. But then the question becomes, okay, well, what do you think would happen if there were no government in any country across the planet? My argument would be you'd have the exact same amount of death. Well, Not real. No, I have to take that back because there's certain weapons like a nuclear bomb
Yeah.
that can only happen in the context of a government.
Right.
Because the amount of capital that you would need in order to perfect a nuclear bomb, you would only be able to finance through theft or taxation, which is a form of extortion to some degree, right?
Yeah.
So, I take that back. I don't think the death toll would be the same amount. I think the intention of the death toll would be the exact same. But the execution of being able to do that, I don't think you'd be able to accomplish that without a form of systemic
Yeah.
seizure of funds.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I was watching this. There's this. I think his name is Andrew Wang, and he's going for this thing called UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Yeah.
So everybody gets X amount of dollars, no matter what they do. And then he was also talking about, tax day being a revenue day, where basically, like you get this video sent to your iPhone or something where the government says, thank you, this is where your money's going, yada, yada, yada. And your local congressman thanks you for being a tax-paying citizen and all this.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was a weird idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it would ever happen because a lot of these things can only function if people believe the government's doing them a favor by getting them a tax return. What a tax return simply means is that they took too much money out of your when they were extorting you. They took too much money away from you, so they're going to give you some of your own money back. So as long as you're in the position of being happy with the government for giving you a chunk of your own money back, psychologically speaking, that's a much better idea than the government thanking you, because then you'll be silly enough to think that these people work for you.
Right.
And then you're not one of their serfs, you know? So that's never going to happen. And a lot of people look at that like, oh, that's corny. Who cares if the government thanks me? Well, that's a very subtle way of retraining an entire populace to understand their role in relationship to the government. Because the one doing the thanking is the one being done the favor.
Right.
And most Americans, when they get their tax return, they don't go, those greedy bastards, look how much money they took from me.
Right.
They go, oh my gosh, thank you, Uncle
Yeah.
Sam. Like Uncle Sam did something for him.
Right. No, you're completely right.
So Uncle Sam coming and thanking you and then saying this is where your money's going. What it does is it reorients the structure of power, at least psychologically. And the second would be it creates a sense of accountability that, wait a second, you're taking my money, what the hell are you doing with it?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right now they have so I understood psychologically where he was going, but other people are looking at it like it was corny. But he's playing the long game, and people are not understanding what he's talking about. They don't get it. They think he's just being corny when really what he's trying to do is retrain the entire populace. Because most of us believe that we're slaves of the government, but most people didn't get what he was doing, so they're like, oh, that's corny, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, you'll be a slave for the rest of your life. But, so when I always feel very strange when I listen to anarchists. So this band is an anarchist band. I mean, that was like one of their things, right? On Trello, didn't Damon Sage hook us up with that knowledge? They emerged in the mid-90s. Oh, okay, shout out to the big homie Jude. So this band emerged in the mid-90s to bring anarchist politics back to hardcore punk. Okay, so you'll have to figure out if we ever figured out punk music and what punk music was about. But apparently, at some point, punk lost the anarchist side of it, but now and you'd see this, like, you would see, when we go to 14th Street and stuff, you'd see the anarchy symbol, the red A with the circle. So we saw a lot of that. So anarchy, we associated with the punks, but I didn't really know
I didn't know what that symbol meant.
Yeah, it means anarchy.
Isn't that, I got that little pregnancy shirt that said Little Punk? Is that symbol?
Yeah, he's got the anarchy symbol. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So all the punks are talking anarchy and stuff, but, you'd ask them, like, what does it mean, bro? Like, what does anarchy mean? They're like, nobody can tell us what the fuck to do. And, of course, you're 16. You're like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? everybody saw the cops, you're running. Wait a second, I thought nobody could tell you what to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get it. But of course, you know, now I've got BM Fan and, you know, those people to explain to me anarchism, and it doesn't sound so crazy. Like, I sit down and I hear BM Fan talk about anarchism, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, oh, wait a second, no. I am a conservative, damn it.
Oh my gosh, babe.
I got all that cognitive dissonance, you know, because I'm like, wait a second, no. But I mean, it makes it. And then you got Noam Chomsky, who's not like a full-out anarchist. I don't know, BM Fan, you're gonna have to help me out with Noam Chomsky, because he basically says, somebody asked him like, well, what's going to be the regulating principle if your idea works, you know, the anarchy? And he basically said, we'll figure it out when we get there. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to figure that out.
That's not good.
I'm a minority, sir. So we're not going to figure that out when we get there.
Right.
No, sir. That's his privilege talking. So I'm not really sure, you know. Anyway, I want to look at some of these lyrics. So, the horror that we may not live to see the walls fall from between us and the world which these songs cry out. So he's saying that there are certain walls that were built up that keep people from each other. And he's terrified at the idea that he won't live long enough to see them torn down.
Okay.
That the desire which still lives to contest a mark of shame upon certain foreheads will remain an offering unto the dead, illegible, irrelevant, and we will be shaped into priestly statues and poses of defiance before our own masters. Whoa!
What's he saying?
To softly, safely sing the praises of a disarmed war, a lukewarm love. So lest we fall out of lust for life, let us risk all we have to risk. For only a fool would cling to this world as it is. Whoo, this dude can write, boy! Okay, so first of all, that the desire which still lives to contest a mark of shame upon certain foreheads. So, you know, you'd have the scarlet letter. So one candidate that I have is the scarlet letter, right? Another one obviously would be the mark of the beast, because the mark of the beast, you know, is right hand, forehead, right? So instead of the mark of the beast, it's the mark of shame upon certain foreheads, and will remain an offering to the dead, illegible, irrelevant, and we will be shaped into priestly poses of defiance before our masters. That's crazy. So basically, he's saying that the time, you know, in the future, that people will basically sell out and stop being anarchists, but then look back on them as these priestly poses and statues, you know, in defiance to their own masters, but the masters are still there. So like, what good is it? What good is it if you have a guy who's a rebel and then he fails and then you make a statue out of him? And the only reason the statue is important is its relationship to the master, because the ruling class is still ruling.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like, I don't want to be a hero, but you know, you make statues out of your heroes.
Yep.
So it's like, that's what people love to do. They love to like make, like, for example, what's the guy's name? Dietrich Bonhoeffer. So Dietrich Bonhoeffer stood up to Hitler, and because of that, he went to he got executed in a concentration camp. 3 days before the camp got liberated. So like, everybody wants to talk about that guy.
Yep.
But nobody wants to actually be him.
that guy, yeah.
Right? So it's like, if, because he said earlier that he was scared to death of not be able to live to see it. So he's saying, let's say that we don't overthrow these people and then I die. I don't want the next generation to make a hero out of me and stop the fight.
I see.
So now you're just a statue of defiance, but it's only there because the ruling class is still there, right? And then, you know, to softly, safely sing the praises of a disarmed war, a lukewarm love. Meaning, you can't make peace with the ruling class. So, like, this is some of sort of like the attitude with Antifa, right? Like, you can't make peace with these people.
Right.
because you're literally at war with these people, and they're literally your enemies. So you
Yeah.
can't make peace with them. So you can't engage these people like in a regular conversation. And so it's that mentality that kind of makes the Antifa folks, kind of why they're so violent.
Yep.
Because some of them have imbibed, a lot of assumptions that people make, like free speech and things like that. Not everybody believes in it. And so what happens is a lot of times they're looking at concepts like free speech and all this, they're looking at that as tools that the master class uses to influence people and keep people in check. So their mentality, I'm not saying specific individuals, but there are definitely people with the mentality that, no, these are dangerous ideas, you shouldn't be able to share them in the public sphere, I'm not going to engage you like we're having an intellectual battle where everybody's disarmed and coming at it peacefully. Like, I'm going to aggressively go after you. So if I can outdo you with aggressive talk, then I'll leave it at that level. But if I can't, then I'll take it. I'll
go to the next level.
We'll get physical.
Yeah.
Right. Which, it's a lot of.
Yeah, but it seems like a lot of groups now are not trying to convince people with their words. They're just going straight to violence. Just pop somebody in the face before they even talk.
Yeah, both sides are getting extremely. I mean, look what happened to Jesse Smollett.
Right. Poor man.
But no, I agree. Like people are dropping the whole your truth, my truth, postmodern stuff, and they're going for it.
Yeah.
So to him, it's like we always have to be at war. So lest we fall out of lust for life, which is usually love of life, but that desire. Less risk we all we have to risk, for only a fool would cling to this world as it is. That's a crazy line. That's a crazy line, because there's that where Jesus says, if you hate your life in this world, you will gain it. But if you love your life in this world, you will lose it. And that's a crazy line, because it's like, if you're trying to maintain the status quo, then you're going to lose yourself, because the status quo right now is pointed toward injustice. So this guy, so obviously Jesus is saying my way of life is gonna restore justice to the earth. These guys are saying the same thing as Jesus. They're saying only a fool will cling to this world as it is, because what they're saying is this world is full of injustice. You got the ruling class in place, and they're presenting a way that's going to bring justice to the earth from their perspective.
Right.
But I think that's one of the main tactics, and I don't mean tactic in a cynical sense, but it's one of the main tactics of any revolutionary is to kind of pull out that discontentment that people feel.
Oh yeah, it's a motivator.
Why are you ready to do jihad if everything is fine? If everything is fine, then leave it. But your job as a revolutionary, like your main job, is to get everybody so convinced that dying is a better eventuality than life as it is. And once you can convince people of that, then you're good to go.
Yep.
Of course, the difference with Jesus is he's saying, yeah, that's so true that I'm going to die first. Right? Like, which I'm sure a lot of these people are willing to, put it on the line too. You know what I mean? So it just depends on who you are. If I could strike one blow to spite their forces, though I might bear 100 more, I would wear the welts like rubies and the shackles for a crown. And if I had 100 hearts, I would throw them all before their bullets before I'd sell a single one to wield their power.
Wow.
That is such a crazy line.
Yeah.
That is such a crazy line, because that's like pure anarchism right there.
So he's saying I would sell everything before I'd let anybody turn over to be part of what you guys are.
Well, the first part is I would die, right? I'd wear the welts like rubies, your shackles for a crown, and 100 hearts, I'd throw them before all your bullets. But then he says, before I'd sell a single heart to wield their power. Because usually what it is I'm never going to surrender to you, you evil bastard, and then if I have the opportunity to get the weapon, I'll get it and turn it against you.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is, the minute that you do that, then you've become them. The minute that you sell something off in exchange for power, you become as bad as the ruling class. So you can't maintain that that moral superiority if you're using their mechanisms to fight your war.
Yeah.
Which we agree. That's why you're not supposed to combat evil with evil, but evil with good, because we're not going to use your weapons to fight war. Because the minute we do that, we're like you.
Right.
That's crazy. This line here was crazy. Autumn, the leaves fell, then the trees became fences and factories. Now winter's coming. Let's put the heat on. So that's just what we're doing to the environment. Autumn, the leaves fell, then the trees fell, and then they became fences and factories. So the forests basically and the singular trees become fences, and the forest becomes factory.
Yeah.
Now winter is coming. We screwed everything up, but we got the solution. Let's put the heat on. But no fire or ice, their absence suffice. Woo! Because now it's all man-made. So,
all man-made?
Yeah, it's all man-made now. Like heat, it's all synthetic. It's not real fire anymore. And then cool, it's not really cool. It's not,
okay.
They're absent now, but it's okay because we've got human ingenuity now. You know, the nights now will be long and cold with a silence like you've never known. And you'll shake in it, cry out at it, and wrap you in its spiders. And perhaps you'll stare into the blackness until it peers back into you, and both of you seeing nothing, it will wrap you in its spider's thread. So I think what he's talking about here is like the confluence of technology and capitalism and government is this long cold night that then becomes like this spider's web. And perhaps you'll stare into that darkness until it peers back into you, and both of you seeing nothing. Because you're staring into the blackness and the emptiness of the world that this capitalism and this technology and this government has created, but it's staring back at you, and then you, because you've spent so much time in it, you become nothing either. So like, you're both staring into blackness.
Ugh.
And then he quotes, blessed are the wombs that are barren. Blessed are the branches that bear no fruit. Blessed are the rivers that run dry, for we have come to the end of the world to die. But that line right there is quoting Jesus.
Yeah, it is.
When he was carrying the cross, and the woman was crying for him, and he said, don't cry for me. The days are coming for you where you say, blessed are the wombs that bear no child. And of course, Jesus is talking about the oncoming Roman incursion in 70 AD.
Yeah,
in which
happened in Jerusalem.
Yeah, if you know anything about siege warfare, a pregnant woman or a nursing woman was the worst possible person to be. Because you could not escape, and, they did terrible things. So, it did terrible things to people back then in siege warfare with pregnant women. So, yeah. So, there's a reason why. Was it Psalm 137 where they said, "Oh, Babylon, happy is he who dashes your children against the stones"? Yeah, because they were doing some pretty terrible stuff when they would invade a given city.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So that's why when siege warfare was happening, you would start blessing a barren woman because she wouldn't have to endure that. Right. Either get caught or have to see what happens or whatever.
Oh my word.
But in the ancient,
that's disgusting.
In the ancient world, losing in siege warfare was terrible. It was like the worst possible eventuality, and it's really interesting because here, it's like for a modern person, having your country overrun is really not a concern, especially in the Western world. Mm-hmm. No American really believes that any country can come over here, and no European does either. Mm-hmm. Mostly because they have their own tradition of warrior spirit, but the other is we would get involved. Your friends in America would help you. But so I think it's a brilliant use of this proverb because he's saying, okay, in the Western world, you're not going to have to endure siege warfare, but what about all the crazy shit we're doing to the globe?
Yeah.
Like you think that, that's going to be the next invasion, is that's what's going to happen. So, and then of course it follows next, die and become perish, let go and be done. With the tangled threads that keep you tied to husks of false hopes fossilized. if these years still wait for those who will be more merciful than history, to burn the chaff and make an end, to make the fields fertile once again, then break the skin open and reach in. See, what he's saying is that if things are going the way that, if things just go normal, like the way things have been going, we're done. We're basically, right?
Yes.
If these years still wait for those who will be more merciless than history to burn the chaff and make an end to make the fields fertile once again. Basically what he's saying is we need somebody to step up and just do what
make it so that we can
do what needs to be done.
Revive ourselves and get to a better place.
Right. What he's talking about is like somebody needs to just come and destroy all of us before we wreck this planet. This guy can write like crazy. Look at that. Open and reach in and draw the nerves out, taught to play a song upon those tight strings such as the world has never heard. Let it be dirge, hymn or dance, vomit or tears, absolving snowfall or acid rain. Woo! Summer that sets fire to the harvest, or ice age that thawing blossoms crimson plain, pleasure or death, splendor or rust, flash flood or drought, that turns jungles to crust, those tender caresses for which the skin aches, or tear gas to breathe and plate glass to break. Whoo! This dude can write! He's just talking about like,
I don't know what he's saying.
He's just talking about planetary destruction.
Yep.
And he's saying it in the most poetic way I've ever seen in my entire life. This is probably my favorite piece of poetry I've ever seen.
Oh, wow, really?
You know what's interesting?
What?
I'm not going to listen to this song again, but I'm going to read this thing over and over and over again.
Really?
This is some of the best poetry I've ever heard in my entire life. Ever. And it's so crazy to me that I'm going to continuously read this probably every day for a week.
Oh my gosh.
I'm never going to hear this. I'm never going to listen to the song again.
Yeah.
But these lyrics are the best lyrics I've ever seen to describe what this dude is talking about. And the way that he goes about summer that sets fire to the harvest.
Yeah, that is pretty solid.
Or ice age that thawing blossoms, crimson pain, pleasure or death, splendor or rust, flash flood or drought that turns jungles to crust. Yikes. Alright, what do you give the song?
It was really depressing to me.
I know, I think this is going to be probably the biggest variance in scoring we've ever seen in quite some time.
The way that the instruments played was depressing. Like the minute the song started, I felt depressed. I didn't like it. And then the way that the guy was singing was like a downer to me, like the whole thing. And then obviously the lyric video was like terrible. Well, it wasn't a lyric video, but the video that was suggested to us was really sad, and there was some things I just don't want to see.
Yeah.
So, and I don't like if a song kind of like takes me somewhere, then I don't mind so much if the lyrics didn't really make any sense to me. That's fine, you know what I mean. But when the lyrics didn't really make any sense to me, you had to break down like basically everything, and everything was so depressing. A 4.
Yeah, so this is an 11 for me. I feel like this song, this is definitely when we do civics and such, however we're planning on incorporating this into school, this is definitely a must listen and a must read for sure. I think this is probably one of the most important piece of poetry I've ever read in the last 20 years.
What the heck?
There's one by Maya Angelou that I read way back in the day. It was a collection of, it had Tupac and there was one with Maya Angelou. I think it was I Rise, which is probably the most impactful poem I've ever read in my life. But this one is up there.
Wow.
It's very, very important. It's important. That's the thing. It's not, oh, this is a good poem, or like, you know, I see something Danny Filth does, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I want people to enjoy it.
Right.
This is not that. This is, people need to look at what this dude is saying, because he'll turn you to a believer real quick. I mean, I want to be an anarchist now. Fuck the government.
Oh my gosh.
Huh? All right, 11 for me.
A 4 for me.
Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.